Greetings, my fellow baseball degenerates, and welcome to the first ever episode of Baseball versus the World, a podcast about baseball and how it relates to the rest of the world and how the rest of the world relates to baseball. My name, your main host, your main guide to this galactic spanning adventure we will be going on in this podcast. My name is Javier Reyes. You might be familiar with me a tiny bit from my work over at Just Baseball. If you're part of the Just Baseball Hive, I mean, who isn't, in fairness? But just in case, I'm a staff writer over there, and I'm also the host of the Locked On Padres podcast, where I talk like an idiot about the Padres every day. This podcast is not that. It's going to be a bunch more. And it's not just going to be me. Don't worry. It's not just going to be me. My guest for the day, and I know this is a little bit of a cliche, but if you're part of the aforementioned Just Baseball Hive, or even just baseball media, dare I say, this man needs no introduction, ladies and gentlemen. He is a fixture in not just baseball, but life. And that is one Sir Jack McMullen. My friend, how are you doing today?
Bro, that was like C minus, D plus. Really? I need an introduction, man. I'm a nobody. In the grand scheme, I am just an atom in I don't know. Like what I'm if you watched Oppenheimer, I'm one of those marbles in the big ball. I'm a whole bunch of nothing, man. So I do need an introduction. I work with you at Just Baseball, and that's who I am.
That's right. Indiana State. He's doing Ball State sports. He's a big broadcaster. You've heard him before on a couple calls, and maybe even occasionally retweeted on the Just Baseball account and whatnot. But Jack, also being the co-host of the Just Baseball show, also, I don't, is co-host correct for the call-up or just
It is.
contributor? It is? Okay.
No, co-host.
Co-host,
Yeah. I was
co-host of the
contributor,
call-up.
and then I found myself on every episode. So I was like, all right, co-host.
There you go. Look, he's super talented. He's super fantastic, but that's not really why I wanted Jack on as my first ever guest for my show. First of all, yes, they gave me a show. Let's get that out of the way. They're idiots. I flummoxed all of them.
Yep.
I won a bet with Arm over fantasy football, and that's why I have this show. That's the only reason I could possibly have a show. But
Yep.
the reason why, Jack, I want to have you as my first guest on this show, and we're going to talk about what the show is in just a second. But number one, I think both you and we are the two biggest divas at Just Baseball Media.
Yeah.
I feel. So it felt only right to have a fellow diva on my first show. And the second reason being that we both secretly may hate sports.
Yeah.
Which is sort of part of the genesis, founding principle, bedrock, whatever, of how this podcast came to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I want to do this podcast is because every now and then the baseball talk, the baseball discourse, it's a little tiring. It's 162 games. Then you've got college, you got the draft, you got Arm talking about Jordan Lawler, whatever, right? Sometimes you just want to talk about some of the fun things of baseball. And I feel like that the network, we have a lot of fun shows, but we don't have stuff that's focusing on everything that isn't the on-field product. And that's what I want this show to be.
Yeah.
Hence the world.
Okay.
We're going to be talking movies. We're going to be talking random tweets and how they relate to players. We're going to be talking all sorts of things. I have a show planned about Alex Rodriguez that we're going to be doing. A lot of fun stuff for the casual fan who doesn't maybe necessarily know what WRC plus means, while also being something fun for people who just love baseball as just a tradition, a culture, dare I say.
So a couple of things to respond to there. Number one, you said pretty much all the content on our network is devoted to the game, right? Devoted to baseball. Do you know the name of the company that this is under?
So I'm familiar with it, but I believe it is Project the Plate, right?
So the name of the company, that was the name for like 4 months. The name of the company that you're working for is Just Baseball Media. So I would assume that we would talk about baseball. I also want to reply to the diva thing. I think you are a very active diva. I think I'm a very passive diva. And frankly, I'm not sure how I got branded the diva, but I'm okay with it because you're willing to run with it. And frankly, like, I'm all right. Sticks and stones, that kind of gist. Whatever makes you happy, I'm willing to roll with the punches on.
I appreciate that very much. Look, you got called Hollywood like one time in the chat. So that's why that's basically why to pull the curtain. That's basically why I refer to Jack that way.
That's fine.
For this episode though, I think we finally need to discuss that. So really quickly, every episode, every week, we're going to be coming out once a week, and we're going to be doing one kind of ridiculous topic that I come up with, and we're going to have one different guest every week. That doesn't mean that Jack won't be back. I know everybody loves him, but we'll be having different people, and I kind of want this to serve as a little bit of a launch pad for maybe some other people who work at Just Baseball, which I think will be a lot of fun. And we'll have one main topic, and then we'll have some special awards. The main topic, most often, will be pretty evergreen. It's going to be something that you could listen to at any time for the most part. It'll be timeless. You don't have to worry that I haven't been watching baseball games lately. I don't know what, Jackson Holliday's exact OPS is at this moment with the Orioles. Whatever it is, that's fine. Instead, there's going to be a main topic, and then we're going to have the award topic at the end of the show, which is a little bit more recent.
Yep.
The names of the awards will change most of the time from week to week. This week, we're going to be talking about the Magic Johnson Award, which is for the most I almost feel bad about this one, Jack. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit. The Magic Johnson Award is for the most enthusiastically obvious take that we've seen. And again, these all relate to baseball. And then the other award is the Casey Frey Award for the most oddly comforting thing that we've seen. Yes. Now, we'll leave the parameters at that and get into the main topic of the show, guys, because we've been farting around for long enough. Today's topic, we are talking because what is Jack good at? What is his calling card? He's a broadcaster. He's a play-by-play guy. He knows the game in and out. And we're going to be talking about not necessarily like the most famous calls. Listen to the Just Baseball podcast / YouTube show intro for an example of some great, great calls. Yep. Instead, you and I, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite, like very silly, very, nothing bad though. Here's the thing. These are going to be funny, but things that are bad that include slurs or a certain someone formerly of the Cincinnati Reds, even his apology, for example, that's not going to be part of this. We want this show to be, hopefully, as much as possible, given that, I am a big diva myself, as positive and lighthearted as possible. So, Jack, you ready to get into it?
I am.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. And frankly, I feel like the reason this topic works a lot for baseball is because baseball announcers are always funny. You kind of have to be. This is a sport that's long. It's, there's a bunch of time between innings and whatnot. Yeah. And there's isn't necessarily action happening every single second with there are on other sports. And I think that has resulted in not necessarily the most viral, silly, funny moments like the NBA or the NFL, but the day-to-day good vibe. You know what I mean? Like a 1.5 WAR player. You know what I mean? Those type of stuff. A few good quips, and we love quips on this show. That's going to be kind of our calling card.
Yeah, so I think baseball broadcasting in particular on TV, when you're with a local announcer pairing on TV, like you are the host of Locked On Padres, Don Orsillo and Mark Grant. Let's take them, for example. If you're a Cubs fan, John Shambi and Jim DeShays. If you're a Yankee fan, Michael Kay, David Cohn, whoever he's working with. So much of what you need to do is you need to be a vibe curator, and you need to kind of set the tone for something that without any commentary could be rather boring at points, right? You go to the ballpark, to watch the game, but also to like have a hot dog and drink a beer and be enveloped by the sights and smells and sounds. When you're watching or listening to a game, if all you heard was 1-0 pitch, low and away, 2-0 pitch, in there for a strike, 2-1, that's fouled away. It's not fun because you're going to have to deal with that for 3 hours. So Let's curate some vibes. Let's make this an enjoyable experience and make it a good passive viewing experience. Yeah, you watch it for the action that happens, but chances are you're sticking around and you're watching a game every night because you like the conversation that's going on.
Just well put. Absolutely true. And I think that for me, growing up, I remember I would be traveling to my dad's like every other weekend, and he was about 45 minutes away. Child of divorce flex. That as a result, we'd be listening to a lot of baseball broadcaster calls. My dad was obsessed with the Yankees. I grew up a little bit of a Yankees fan. Don Sterling may or may not be talked about on today's show.
Right. So you got the best. You got John Sterling, who's like the king of vibe curation. Yeah. And now he just does it by doing like the generic stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it just works. So I've really baseball broadcasting has a special place in my heart. And again, This is not about the best calls. We'll see you tomorrow night. We're not talking about the legendary Joe Buck, his call of the Cubs winning the World Series, where he kind of took the approach of doing less. You know what I mean? There's such an art to all this. And we want to talk about some of the funny ones that this isn't meant to be mean spirited. Again, we're gonna just be having some fun. Jack,
I'm in.
let's do it, man. Let's do it. I'm gonna do the drum roll. I don't know if we're gonna have post-production music, so gotta do a drum roll in there. But let's talk with the first one. And the first selection that I have, Jack, is one that basically is what started this idea of mine.
Yeah.
You sent this to me a few years ago, and I literally bring it up once every 2 weeks. Is that fair to say?
Month. I'll give you credit. A month.
A month. Every month I bring up this call by the just courtesy of Greg Brown.
Yes.
It is his call of Russell Martin's home run.
There's a fly ball to left center field. That ball's deep toward the wall, and it is gone! Russell Martin clears the deck against Johnny Cueto. It is 2-0.
Yes.
Now, listeners, here's the thing. I saw this on Twitter. I have it bookmarked. And honestly, whenever I'm feeling a little bit down, I do play it. Russell Martin, it is 2-0. See, I can't even say it. I cannot even say it. Listeners, you just heard the audio just now. So you get the point. I don't have to repeat it. It's a masterpiece. It's a work of art. Jack, what do you think happened here?
So I absolutely love Greg Brown. He has been such a fun listen, particularly over the last 2 years for me, being with the Pirates AAA team. Like, I watch way more Pirates baseball than the average human being, hell, probably than the diehard Pirates fans. And Brownie is so much fun because he stays out of the way of the game and he has a good time with all of his analysts. The whole point of a Greg Brown telecast or a radio broadcast is to have a good time and push the game, right? It's about the game, but you're going to be entertained while the game is happening. And I know there are a couple others that you want to highlight, but Greg Brown was another guy that kind of walked. One of the things that he went quote unquote viral for was, I think it was like 2018, 2019. Greg Brown had an altercation with Tony La Russa when La Russa was the front office for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And Brownie, what he did was he walked through step by step the genesis of the altercation, and what happened after the fact with Tony La Russa. And at the end of the day, Tony La Russa looks like an ass because he was an ass. And Greg Brown looks like a good guy because he was a good guy, but he pervaded the story so well. Now, he will really kick into the mode. And I think this is what happened here. And I haven't asked him about it. I would love to ask him about it.
Please do.
Russell Martin is Canadian. He might be from Quebec. I'm going to look it up right now.
Okay.
And it would make a little bit more sense if he was from Quebec. But no, he is from, yes, he is. All right. He's from Montreal. So I guess I get it because he's a French Canadian. But the idea of Russell Martin homering off of Johnny Cueto, it is 2-0, is awesome. And it was very Steve Martin in his first pick Panther for me. And Steve Martin's first pick Panther is my favorite movie of all time. I watched it, I think, 30 times in the span of 2 weeks when I was 8 years old.
Really? That's your favorite movie?
So when I was like 8, 9 years old, I vividly remember sitting in the back of the car with a DVD player. You remember the DVD players?
Yes, I do remember those, yeah.
So we had Pink Panther on a DVD player, and I would match the accent, and I spewed the entire movie verbatim. I knew the Chinese part in the interrogation room. Right. I knew it word for word. So the fact is that call generated so much Steve Martin as Jacques Clouseau for me. And it's awesome. I love it.
First of all, I watched that movie like 40 times when I was younger too. Yep. So I totally get it. I like the scene when they're like planting themselves on the wall as like camouflage or whatever. Yeah, the hamburger, all that stuff. I need to see it again. You've actually got my gears churning now. Maybe it's an underrated like classic. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways. And Beyonce was in it, which I totally forgot about. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's a great call. Shout out to Russell Martin. Shout out to Johnny Cueto. The latter of which is still relevant, still playing, and I believe he's still playing, or at least, his last season wasn't the best. But shouts to Johnny Cueto, champion, all that stuff. And Russell Martin, also shout out for being like the most reliable back end of your fantasy draft starting catcher that will always do something for you, even if he starts off horrendously through the year. So shouts to those two guys. Should I do the next? Do we go back to Greg Brown for the next one? Do we just get that one out?
Why not? I loved this one.
The next one on our list of our favorite silly calls by baseball broadcasters is Oye Como Va, courtesy of Greg Brown.
And the pitch. High drive to right field, and it's fair. It's gone. Oh, it is gone. Clear the deck. Oye Como Va. Oye Como Va. Carlos Santana has won the game.
Again, play-by-play for the Pirates. This is one that I actually think I wouldn't have objected to it becoming more used by Greg Brown. I wouldn't object to hearing it more often. I think it was so silly. There is a little bit of like okay, you don't have the same energy as, say, the Santana song or whatever, right? But you have, I appreciate the energy. It was a great walk-off too.
Yeah.
Which is always nice.
Yeah.
But it still leads the question of like, it's like this masterful, both like middle of cringy and funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I hear you.
Okay.
I will say, if this was a home run when they were up by 3 in the 4th inning, it's not hitting like the anvil like it hit.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, this was a different beast because you could hear him. It was so good in the build up to it, right? As soon as the crack of the bat happened, Greg was matching it, and he was there, and he was there, and he was building as the ball was flying out. And as soon as it flew out, PNC went berserk, and he matches that energy. And then all of a sudden he snaps into Oye Como Va. And I was stunned when I heard the first one. And then the second one, I was like, oh, he's doing the Carlos Santana thing. He's doing the Santana thing. and as soon as that clicked and he snapped right back into calling it, I was like, this might be the call of the year. I loved it.
It was fantastic. And, as someone who isn't as caught up with outside the Padres who I cover, so like I know them, I occasionally forget the names and which announcers are which. When I saw someone send that in the chat, I was like, wait a minute. And I probably texted you being like,
it's the guy.
Is this the Russell Martin guy?
It's Greg Brown.
Just delivered another banger after banger only from Greg Brown. He's like the pit bull, apparently. Like he'll just have that one banger that comes out guaranteed all the time, right?
He is, I'm telling you, he's one of the more underrated announcers in baseball because he has such a good time calling baseball, and he knows the game, and he's willing to let the game breathe, but he's willing to have fun like that. The only worry when a call like that happens is, are you isolating a group of listeners? Probably, right? I bet there's a good bit of the Pittsburgh population that cannot immediately recall Carlos Santana, the guitarist's best work. Having said that, for the people that get it, they effing get it.
Yeah,
and
man.
It is awesome.
It is fantastic. And like you said, when you feel like they're having fun, I feel like the listeners are having fun too.
Yes,
hopefully.
Absolutely.
The same thing for this year, Baseball versus the World podcast, I hope. Hopefully. It is the first episode, so we're, got some kinks to iron out, as a host over here myself, for sure. Next one. All right, don't worry, it's not Greg Brown again. Although I'm going to try my hardest to find another one of his over the next few weeks. The next one, Jack, I want to talk about one that I think went viral for sure. I've got a couple on here that I think that people might not fully remember, but the next one, and then after this one, I want you to get involved if you have any potential selections of your own.
I've got some.
This one is one that we're going to play, but we're only going to play one aspect of it. And that is Gary Thorne of the Baltimore Orioles essentially keeling over because of Gleyber Torres.
2 of the runs earned. In the air to right field, Mancini going back on the ball by Torres. Way back, up, and... I don't even know.
So a few years back, this is when Gleyber Torres looked like, hey, Locked On Padres here. I did an episode, a crossover with the Yankees host on that network, talking about Tatis versus Gleyber Torres. That's what the conversation was about at one point. You know what I mean? Gleyber Torres dare I say, Orioles merchant at the time, because his powers seemed to only come against the Orioles. And Gary Thorne, God bless this man, would just be like, get him out of here. Like, there's so many. And then my favorite personally is, I think it's one of the last ones, when he just goes, ugh, after one leaves the park. Jack, your thoughts?
I just had a conversation about that call on Thursday morning during coffee. Just had that conversation. Get him out of here. Stop throwing to him. I loved that. And I love that he called it like the road team, like the bad guys hit a home run. And then he kicked into that fever pitch where it's a relatively, for Gary Thorne, it's a relatively monotonous home run call. It's like, and it's gone. Get him out of here. Like he wrote after the fact. And I love that because he was clearly pissed off. And that's how I want my announcer to be. I don't want him to be total Homer. Granted, I grew up with Hawk Harrelson, so like Homer, and I love Hawk, so I love the Homer thing. But I want them to be the ambassador for the Baltimore Orioles. If you are the TV voice of the Baltimore Orioles, and you're like, Thorne was awesome, and they've got some awesome ones now. Most notably, Kevin Brown, awesome. He was so clearly like opponent hit a home run, and then it was, God damn it, we have to stop pitching to this guy. And he let the world know that he was thinking that. And I love that he let the world know.
And it was very, in my opinion, a very like relatable moment for fans. Every fan has that player that
they're saying the same thing. They're sitting in their living room. They're like, this guy's killing us.
And they're probably keeling over as if they just ate like they just got food poisoning. And that's the vibe that he gave off. And it was really great. And again, there's so many home runs. So again, we're only going to share like part of it in the audio of this episode, but like, man, just a stand-up job, really good stuff. And it's a division rival too, has that Yankees, Orioles, really good stuff. And it was just funny. And man, Gleyber Torres, those home run swings, my God. Like the Gleyber Torres moment, especially when he had that little bit of a dip and then he became what he is now, which is definitely, dare I say, an underrated player. But Gleyber Torres nearly killing Gary Thorne. Jack, do you have one that you would like to share for the good listeners?
I've got a couple. Aristides Aquino. Do you remember when he was on that crazy stretch? The Punisher? Cincinnati Reds. He had 7 homers in his first like 10 games.
I think I do remember this. Yes.
So Tom Brenneman, not for the infamous call, but Tom Brenneman on Aristides Aquino. There was one of them that like it went out, and his big thing was like his nickname was the Punisher, so he was like the Punisher like each time, and it was awesome. It was very Street Fighter. Is that the game where it was like kind of one-on-one, or was it Mortal Kombat that was one-on-one?
They're both one-on-one.
Okay, it was one of those, and he would like say the Punisher in like a Mortal Kombat way, and it was like okay. Oh. But there's another one, I think it was like his 6th or 7th, where it's leaving, and instead of Aristides Aquino, he does the thing where he puts his finger in between his lips and he goes, Aristides Aquino.
Give it up, my friend.
Oh, boy. As if on cue, did he get enough? He's done it again! Aristides Aquino!
And I was like, what just happened? But I thought it was the funniest thing ever. I was like, was that a weird like vocal thing, like a flick in the back of his throat? But then I listened again and I was like, he actually did that thing.
This is a great one. I remember the stretch. I don't remember the call. So I can't wait to hear that, but that's really funny. And certainly not, the only thing, unfortunately, Tom Brenneman is known for, which we won't have to.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about ones that we loved.
The ones that we loved. And I just, look, professional athletes they know how to motivate themselves. But dare I offer them, also think about, what if you might make a broadcaster lose their mind? I wonder if they might be like, I'm going to remember that when I go up to pitch. The answer's probably no. But even still, I offer that to all the great athletes out there, just in case.
I love it.
You want to go through your next one?
Yeah, I'm going to run you through a couple more.
Okay.
I think one that has been like often memed, and it's just my favorite meme, is Dan McLaughlin. I think it was Fox Sports Midwest. Rangel Ravello going deep in Colorado.
Ravello Knock me down. Hello, goodbye. There you go. Knock me down. There you go. Bye-bye. And then take a trot.
Ravello, knock me down. There you go. Hello, goodbye. Now take a trot. My sneaky favorite part of the entire call was Jim Edmonds right before the pitch. The last thing he says is, those balls are a little slick. And then it gets into that call. And out of context, that 30-second stretch is in my Hall of Fame.
It's amazing. It's like it feels very, I had 4 different calls that I was about to make for this.
Yeah, and I'm just going to create a soup.
Yeah, just create a soup out of it. And look, it's a work of art. Let me be very clear. We're not hating on anyone. We think that this is beautiful. You and I think a lot of fans as well, you need to lighten up a little bit. You got to have some fun. And don't get me wrong, some of these little more intentional than some others, right? Like some of them, like we talked about Greg before, but this one is just, these are all works of art. And I'm really glad that you brought that one up, because at first I forgot what you were talking about. And right when you started saying it, I remembered it. Great pick, Jack. Do you got another one?
I do. I've got a couple more, actually. One that I actually think is perfect. April of 2023, the Mariners were at Wrigley, and Jared Kelenic was off to a really hot start.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when Jared Kelenic hit that ball like 470 dead center at Wrigley?
Yes.
Murdered.
Yes.
So it was the Mariners call that everybody clipped and put out. Go listen to the Marquee Network call and John Shambi. It's literally just, ooh. Crack of the bat, then ooh. It was perfect.
What is it, like the John Wick, where he's like, hey, that was John Wick's car. He's like, oh. Like, it's just...
No, it was just like, it was like you watch somebody get punched really hard in the face and they just go down. It's like,
I just did it. Yeah. I got you. No, I got you. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So, I loved that one because it was so simple, and that's Boog's thing. Like, Boog is, I think, the best in baseball right now at letting the game just speak for itself. It's him and it's Dwayne Kuiper in San Francisco. Those two are so good at just not talking and letting the game dictate, and they can go 3 pitches without saying a word. And those are the most comfortable announcers. And frankly, I think those are the best announcers. So I loved that call. But getting back to actually talking, Brandon Gaudin is the new voice of the Braves after Chip Carey went to St. Louis. And Brandon Gaudin will kind of have he's got kind of a mix and match of analysts when Jeff Francoeur does national work. Francoeur is the main analyst with Brandon Gaudin. And Jeff Francoeur is kind of the king of sexual innuendos. And Brandon Gaudin did not have Frenchie next to him when he said this.
So the Braves will go from Johnson to Hand, and the batter will be Mastrubuoni. That's probably a good thing Jeff Francoeur's in the other booth.
So the Braves go from Johnson to Hand, and the batter will be Mastrubuoni. And it's probably a good thing that Jeff Francoeur is not in the booth right now. Johnson to Hand, the batter is Mastrubuoni. I was like, okay, good. Thank you for acknowledging it.
Well done. Well done. I like those picks. I'm going to interject a couple of mine as well. I have more recent ones. You have the classics. You know what I mean? Like, you've got a lot more history to you. You are like a big history
These are
guy
all in
too.
the last 5 years or so.
No, I know, but you have some other ones, is what I'm saying too.
Yeah, I do have one a little bit deeper.
You do have one a little bit more of a deeper cut. Before we get into that, I'm going to give a more casual one. Just happened last year. It is one of those that, frankly, I feel like we don't even need to discuss. It is from the man, Tom Hamilton. Down goes Anderson.
Yeah, that's great.
Now Hosey and Anderson square off. They're fighting. They're swinging. Down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson.
Look, you're a Chicago guy. I know this hurt you. I don't mean to be insensitive. But look, first of all, this is another topic, but a genuine fight.
Yeah.
Genuine fight between Tim Anderson and Jose Ramirez. Tim Anderson not having the best year, definitely his worst year in the majors, basically in a while. Jose Ramirez down year by his standards, and the two just got into a fight, and it was straight up. There wasn't like sucker punch or anything like that. And Tom Hamilton going on and saying "Down goes Anderson, down goes Anderson," genuinely killed me to the point where I rewound it so many times on my DVR, like live TV. And in the age of Twitter, most of the time it's like, why don't I just go look this up? Like someone's got it on Twitter. Instead, I just kept it, and it was on my DVR for a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
A decent amount of time, I mean like 4 days. But that really is a long time by today's standards. And I adored it. Yes, I don't mean to make fun of Chicago. I imagine already plenty of people do that for you, but I think this is a masterpiece. It's something that anyone will get.
Yeah.
And it's something that anyone will get if they're not even a baseball fan. They'll understand it.
It was great. I thought the initial moment that he realized that shit was getting real was the best part, where he just goes, "They're fighting."
Yeah. They're fighting.
Right.
They're fighting. He's like stating the obvious.
Yeah. That's just how he said it. And I was like, damn right. It was like the beginning of, again, a Mortal Kombat game where it says fight. Like,
Yeah.
It's so good. So I loved that part. Tim Anderson is my favorite player, so I have no problem saying this. He's clearly the villain. Like with the White Sox, he was clearly the villain for every opposing team. He was the one that you circle, and it's like, if shit's going to go down, it's going to be around Tim Anderson. That's why I love him. That's why he's my favorite player, because he cares. He and the Guardians do not like each other. He and J-Ram do not like each other. So the fact that Tom Hamilton perfectly encapsulated that in they're fighting and down goes Anderson was awesome.
Yeah, and he legitimately went down. This isn't something that was exaggerated.
No, it was like a TKO. Yeah, it was legit.
It was legit. It was great. I loved it. It was a masterful work, and in my opinion, actually just completely changes the vibe of that play, because I think on one hand it's just wow, fight. And then it becomes this like really funny, like victory for the Guardians almost, I think, because of that call adds so much more to it, the way you kind of don't expect for things like that. And I guess my guy just saw an opportunity and went for it, and he did, and it was great.
Yeah.
My next one I'm going to talk about, speaking of, elite level players, my next one you might not have seen coming. It was trending and it was roasted, and I'm actually going to defend it, because that's what I do. I like to defend things that are hated because I'm a hipster. It is Tiger Woods, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Aaron Judge.
Tiger Woods, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Aaron Judge. Wow.
Courtesy of one Alex Rodriguez. Jack is shaking his head. Here's the thing. I'm up at the stand right now. The jury, they want to give me a guilty verdict for bringing this one up. Here's the thing. I think the backlash of this one was just a tiny bit much. I think some of y'all need a sense of humor. A-Rod is best appreciated the way you appreciate old Steven Seagal movies, the way you appreciate Face Off. You just have to understand the comedy of it all. And once you do that, once you open your third eye, maybe even fourth eye, that's how hard you got to dig deep to enjoy this stuff, because I'm a sicko, you will come to appreciate Alex Rodriguez. I will say, for some objectivity, much better in the studio versus the booth. I think he was genuinely awesome there. This is my real take. Genuinely awesome there, and I thought that they were this close to having their own version of the TNT guys for the NBA. But it didn't quite materialize that way. I think this was super funny. It's obviously ultimate hyperbole. This is somehow the most hyperbolic one that we've said so far. Like, not a joke. Comparing Aaron Judge, who is an amazing player, amazing player, like the king of New York sports right now, dare I say. But to compare him to Woods, LeBron, and Michael Jordan was absurd. And look, he could be appreciated as a silly lad. May or may not be a full topic on the future of this show. I'm so obsessed with A-Rod. But Jack, go ahead, because you've been shaking your head the whole time, and I think this is when I lost you. This could be when I lost you.
It stunk. He called Aaron Judge a goat. You can't do that. It's just it's uninformed. That was my big thing. And like A-Rod, when he was doing games, felt uninformed. When he's on the desk, I think it's good, because like Poppy's hilarious. And Poppy and A-Rod on the same desk is awesome. But you don't need to be overly informed there. Like, I tune into a game to get information and a dash of entertainment. I tune into a desk to get entertainment and a dash of information, right? Like, I like a desk if they're overly informative or if they're overly entertaining. You don't get information from the NBA on TNT Group, but like there are some desks like ESPN College Basketball. I love when they have Seth Greenberg and Sean Farnham on the same desk because I get so much shit from them. But like on a game, I don't love watching Bill Walton on a game because like it's entertainment, it's not information. Like that was so uninformed. I just didn't like it.
No, look, you're right, but also again, I think some of y'all
It's A-Rod. Yeah, you're leaning into it.
And this is the topic of the show. We're not talking good calls. It is our favorite silly ones. Although I think the majority of the ones you can make the argument that they are just great, right? That they're not the Colt Steven Seagal movie.
For sure.
They're not, ridiculous stuff like Marine with John Cena or whatever, right? Instead, this is just pure like you got to be a sicko like me to enjoy it. And I will say that aside from the casual stuff, I do hear you. I really think it's entertainment, informative, and when you don't have one of them, that's when you deserve to get slander.
You're
So,
screwed. Yeah.
A-Rod, I understand the slander. I'm just telling everybody, if you view it in my eyes, you might appreciate it just a little bit more. Jack,
Understood.
I'm going to fire off just the last couple ones before we get into the award segment of the show.
Yes.
And then you can also reveal yours as well. Your last one. Jerry Remy and Don Orsillo.
Yeah.
If
Great
you look
group.
up funny baseball announcers, it will be one of the first videos. May or may not have witnessed an assault on camera of some sort. It's funny to me because they literally don't say anything.
Yeah.
They literally don't say anything. Don Orsillo is a king. We love him, especially as a Padres fan. They just go, it's like, I'm not kidding, like a 30-second pause.
Nick Markakis takes strike
with them laughing so hard. And then they go, Nick Markakis takes strike one. And then they lose it. Like that's all they could get out. It is the fact that they didn't say, this is the beauty. This is what we've been talking about. The beauty of like letting things just play out. You don't have to say anything. It's not a good thing that happened, obviously. But shouts to Don Orsillo and Jerry Remy. That's amazing. It's one of the first things you'll find it. We don't even have to play the audio for you. Another quick one, as a biased Padres fan, Jorge Mateo getting into it with Dennis Santana. Game back in 2021 between the Padres and Dodgers, where Don Orsillo, like, Jorge Mateo, he starts to take exception and he's walking to first base after getting hit.
With the first pitch. Like he hasn't been hit enough lately.
Here we go.
Now they're going to talk, and now we're going to fight. An epic battle tonight of two heavyweights, and a discussion starts.
He's like, and now we're going to stop, and now we're going to fight. And then there was no actual fight. It was like the ultimate overreaction. And he himself said afterwards, be like, it was exciting. And that's what people, like, he kind of knew, because at the time, I'm really nostalgic for the time when, one, when the Padres were expected to be great. And two, when there is genuine, that brief period of time where the Padres-Dodgers beef was very, very real. Like, you could see it. You could feel it in the air. You did get a little bit in the 2022 playoffs, but that was amazing. Small, tiny one, Michael K.
Mm-hmm.
Aroldis Chapman against the Red Sox. A few years ago, I could not find the audio or when this game was, but Aroldis Chapman walks the bases loaded, and it's very subtle, but Michael K, after the last walk, just goes, like a pause for like 3 seconds, and the bases are loaded. Like a very, like, of course we're here type of reaction for Michael K. So I do want to give that one shout. And of course, ending my, selections.
Yeah.
John Sterling. Just, I don't even know where to start. And I did not know until before preparing for this podcast, there's a Moiterer's Row website that has a compilation of all the many nicknames that our guy Sterling has given to the Yankees players over the years. My personal favorites, A-Bomb from A-Rod.
Yeah.
Oh, the Grandy Man Can.
Mm-hmm.
The Milkman Delivers.
Yeah.
And my personal favorite, because he would add a chuckle in there. He would add a chuckle sometimes. Robbie Cano, don't you know? So he'd go, Robbie Cano, don't you know? Like, it's the little chuckle in between that gets it for me. John Sterling, you were my like whole childhood, and I always looked forward to the ridiculousness. And hey, every player, that's what I like too, not just stars. You know what I mean? He didn't just do it for the stars. Greg Bird got one. You know what I'm saying? No offense to Greg Bird, but he didn't pan out for the Yankees. John Sterling, just one of the best.
So I will give you a John Sterling one. It was 2023. Do you remember when he got hit in the head with a foul ball?
Yes, of course.
So that audio.
Now the 3-2 swung on, a pop foul back here.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
It's so funny to me. It wouldn't be funny if he got hurt, but he was all right. Just like the 5 hours. Ow, ow.
Yeah.
Like he's not saying like he's hurt. He's kicked into radio mode still. Ow. It really hit me. Ow. And then Susan Waldman's already downstairs because it was like the tail end of the game. And she's like, thanks, John. Our player of the game is Kyle Higashioka, and he wants to know if you're okay. Like, it glanced off my forehead, just a glancing blow. The whole sequence was so good.
That was excellent. No, that's a great pick. It's and again, it was also funny because he is okay at everything. And I remember seeing this like on Twitter. It was a very big thing. And like you just, but like playing through it, almost like his own a miniature flu game, but for broadcast announcers. You know what I mean? Like the Jordan,
it really hit me.
It really hit me.
I've got one more. It's not a specific moment. White Claw was doing a lot of branding with the Cubs radio network.
Okay.
And Pat Hughes might be the best radio voice in all of sports. Whenever Pat Hughes did a White Claw read, it was like my happy place. White Claw, ride your wave. It was so funny the way that he said, ride your wave. And
I like
White
that.
Claw.
That soothed me too just now, honestly.
Right. So
that
that's
was really soothing.
Yeah.
I like that we're going to end it on that one. That was really good. That was really, really good, guys.
Yeah.
Again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this so far. We are not done yet, though, for the weekly segment. We are done. But now we must get into the weekly awards right after this. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, flying from outer space, baseball versus the world. It is the awards segment of the show. This one, admittedly, here's the thing. This show, like I said, the main topic of the show, which today was Silly Broadcaster Calls, will mostly be, evergreen topics with some wiggle room. But the little award segment is meant to be more recent stuff, at least somewhat recent stuff. Not necessarily yesterday or the breaking news, but at least some semblance of attachment to what's going on currently in baseball is what the point of the segment is. And they may vary every week or stay the same. I may even have the same parameters for an award, but name it something different. Instead of the Magic Johnson Award, next week it'll be the Ben Verlander Award for most enthusiastically obvious take. Whatever. That's what we're going to do out here because one, coming up with new awards, surprisingly hard. And number two, it's a funny bit. So that's what we're going to be doing. And I'll be frank. Look, here's the thing, man. Things get volatile out here with awards. You know what I'm saying? We're going to need some test runs with this whole thing, but we're going to rock it. I actually didn't decide who will go first here, but since I am the host, I will go first with my personal winner for the Magic Johnson Award for most enthusiastically obvious take. It goes to Jack McMullen. No. But I must be fully frank. I 100% Googled and was looking all over your Twitter today to see if I could find something that fit the parameters. I was. I mean, again, I tried. But for me, this was really hard, but I'm going to pick on someone because they picked on my guy. It is from Giraffe Neck Mark, who you might be familiar with on Twitter or on YouTube, whatever it is. Baseball is the hardest sport to play, and it's not even close. Reacting to Mad Dog Russo's rant from the other day. That is my personal pick. I have plenty of other nominees, though. And again, this isn't like, and for those who don't know, Magic Johnson basically just famous for his Twitter account, literally tweeting the most obvious things. Look up Magic Johnson funny tweets. You'll have some ideas. Jack, do you think that this is a little bit harsh?
Yeah, I do think it's a little bit harsh
Mm-hmm.
because it's just something that's very commonly thought about,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's something that we've been beaten over the head with enough for the first 20 something years of our lives
Mm-hmm.
that I think he was just regurgitating something that he's grown up with.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. But does that not fit the parameters of the award? You know what I mean?
It does. It
It
totally
does.
does.
But it is mean. I get what you're saying. Hey, I did have one of our co-founder, one of our co-founders, I should say, Mr. Peter Apple. This was my second one. And this one was him saying, and it was on the Just Baseball show, Joe Mauer passed the torch to Buster Posey. Posey passed it to JT Realmuto. And now JT has handed the torch over to Adley Rutschman. This was my second potential one only because it could be viewed in some very mean, cynical ways as like, congrats, you just named the best catchers in the sport over the past couple 15 years. But it didn't have the juice to it for me. You know what I mean? Didn't have quite the full blown obviousness, but more like just a little bit too factual for me
Yeah.
that I was like, you know what? It's a fair quote. As much as I tried to get any one of you guys in on this award, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I instead settled for Giraffe Nick because he's perhaps one of the leading voices in dumb comments about Justin Herbert, aside from some other people out there. And Justin Herbert is my boy, so I must defend him. But yeah, that's my personal pick. What do you think?
Okay, I do like it. I'm a fan. I will say it's tough because like it is fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was tough to find one for this one. I thought it was
a unique take. It fit in the grand scheme of the podcast.
Yeah, it did. It did for sure. And again, look, this award could have been called like the Ben Verlander Award. I mean, that guy, but he hasn't had one lately, and I was really disappointed to like not really see an obvious Ben Verlander take. You know, the I'll start ones and all that stuff. And you know, this is versus the world, so we take everything into account for a good bit. And you know, it could have been called the Ben Verlander Award, but Magic Johnson's one of the first people to do this. That's why we're doing it that way.
Right. So I will say my recipient of the Magic Johnson Award is Magic Johnson.
Okay.
I just want to revisit this tweet from him on October 12th at 10:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
We're all disappointed that our Dodgers didn't hit or pitch well. That's why we lost the series to the Diamondbacks. That's right, Magic. You freaking nailed it.
You know, I didn't want to choose Magic because I thought it would be too obvious.
No.
And frankly, he hadn't had one in a little bit. You know what I mean? He hadn't had one in a little bit of while, you know, so I did it. You know, back in October is fine. This is the first episode of the show. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I mean, just Magic's just so good at this. He's so good at this. I was disappointed here.
I think it's all humor.
I think so too. I think with things like this though, I don't think they start that way. He didn't start going, "Oh, I got an idea. I'm going to name obvious things." I think he did it a few times because, you know, older generation, maybe they don't fully understand the idea of Twitter. You know what I mean? They don't get the social media thing immediately. And then I think someone maybe clued him in and was like, hey, people really love this and they think it's hilarious. And then maybe he thought about it and now that's his bit. I don't think these things start that way though. That's my theory.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right. Thank you very much. So congratulations, Magic Johnson, and to Draft Neck Mark, winners of the Magic Johnson Award for most enthusiastically obvious take. Next one. Really excited about this one. The Casey Frey Award for most oddly comforting thing. This one is in shouts to comedian, performer, content person, whatever you want to call him, Casey Frey. If you haven't seen his video of that, like, I literally don't even know how I would explain it, but just look up like Tame Impala, Casey Frey. It's the one of him with the clone of himself chopping wood and then doing the dance thing. It is one of the, I still swear by, Casey Frey discovering a different part of our brain that makes us happy. There's something he does. I've never been able to explain it, but this video is literally my therapy, and I watch it like every 2 weeks.
So
it's great.
I will say Casey Frey is one of the perfect examples when I see the tweet, oh, so you don't think white people have culture? and then I get that dancing video, or I get him and Nick Coletti and I just want to ball with my bros.
Yeah.
That's my comfort video too. So I'm just all about Casey.
Absolutely. It's I revealed my winner for the first one. Jack, tell us, who do you got for the Casey Frey one?
So mine is actually going back to a call. I'm gonna make this full circle. Hawk Harrelson's final call of Mark Burley's perfect game. It's a ground ball to Alexi Ramirez. And I there's a ton of sentimental value here. Mark Burley's my favorite athlete of all time.
Yeah.
And it was like I was sitting on the couch with my entire family. My dad and my younger brother went to White Sox Rays the day before.
Wow.
And they're sitting on the couch and it's an afternoon. And I remember like I was sitting on I was out front in front of our house and it was like the 6th inning. My dad was like, you got to get in here. And we were sitting in there and we were nervous. And the Dwayne Wise catch was amazing. And then there's a ground ball to Alexi Ramirez. And Hawk Harrelson's final call of a perfect game is literally, Alexi, yes. It's like 7 or 8 yeses in a row. That is, I mean, I could listen to him say yes in that tone forever.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Jack. Beautiful. But I will say, to be a hater, if you give me permission for a second, is that oddly comforting? You know what I mean?
I think it's oddly comforting.
You think so? Because it is a perfect game. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if, and the listeners and the viewers may be able to help
what
out
about,
with this,
but let me ask you, it's been done how many times? 20 now, Domingo Germán?
I think it's 20 now, yeah.
It's been done 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
What about something that's been done 20 times in over 100 years is comforting? It's exhilarating. It's not comforting.
Mm-hmm.
Comforting is something that you can turn to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I view that as an exhilarating moment that for some reason invokes like this sense of tranquility in me. And that's why I view it as oddly comforting.
And you know what? Another good point is because you added all the background. You know what I mean? You said like someone said to come in, he's your favorite athlete.
Yeah, it was like a family moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's fair. That's fair. Because like there are some for me where like there's something comforting about the Don Zimmer fight for the Yankees because I watched
Pedro
it live with
his head and yeets it.
Watched it live with my dad. For some reason, and you know, I flexed the child divorce thing. For some reason, my dad and I happen to have been together for the craziest moments with the Yankees growing up. I'm talking the Jobber Chamberlain ant thing. I'm talking
the gnats. What was it like?
I think it was Canadian fire ants. I think
mosquito. No, dude, they were flying around him.
I thought it was Canadian fire ants, which might be like
God,
might be a version of ants that are flying.
Maybe.
Honestly, I'll look it up. I'll look it up later. But that I was around for. The Miguel Cabrera versus Austin Romine thing. We happened to be around each other. And then the Don Zimmer thing. It's like really odd that so I'm like, hey man, Soto's gonna get into like a brawl if I hang out with you again, apparently. So we'll have to see if that transpires. But Jack, that is a really beautiful anecdote as well. Thank you so much for sharing. For mine, a little bit more recent, because that's what I was aiming for here. Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto speaking Spanish, or at least being taught to speak Spanish. Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah.
Look, first of all, and I got a lot of flack for this on my YouTube channel, Locked On Padres, where I host my podcast on the Padres, obviously. I talked about how I thought that Ohtani to the Dodgers was good for baseball in a rating sense. Don't know if it's good for baseball fans in is this interesting sense. In the sense that I think going to the Cubs would have been more fun, the Mariners, all these other teams, instead of a team that wins 100 every year. That's just me. That being said, watching this, I was like, you know, it's just too hard for me to hate this guy. Like I tried that first day to be like, this is Kevin Durant. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm going to make this my Kevin Durant. But, you know, as a Latino myself, it was just nice. And another player on the Padres, Ha-Seong Kim, reportedly talks his crap in Spanish specifically, which is hilarious, by the way.
So good.
I've had a lot of rage towards the Dodgers, but this little clip kind of reminded me at the very least that it's impossible to hate Shohei. And I should calm down just a tad. You know what I mean? And hopefully, none of the Padres listeners will find this and get mad at me. The Dodger loving thing, which I've been attacked for before. But I just liked it. It was cute. And Ohtani is just such a magnetic presence. You literally see him and you smile. That I really think that he's reached that level. We're just seeing him. I cannot help but smile. I'm just like, this guy is a demigod. This guy is the face of the sport. He's brought more joy to this sport. He's reminded me why I fall in love with the sport, because you're always finding new personalities all the time. And the Spanish thing was just a nice touch. And shouts to Teoscar Hernandez, low key, going to be like a 35 home run player, I think, this year. Going to be awesome for them.
100%. I think my favorite part of that video is when the camera pans over to Yamamoto and he just goes, "Hi."
Yeah.
Waves his hand like that.
It's so nice. It's so
He
nice.
looks so cute. I was just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, you're so cute, man."
It's like, and then this guy can hit a ball like 500 feet, and the other one's gonna like be a Cy Young contender. You know what I mean? So
That's the thing. It's like you pan over and it's like you're a $300 million pitcher, and you
Yeah.
said hi, like the way that I would.
yeah, exactly. So that's my recipient for the Casey Frey Award for most oddly comforting thing. Those are the awards for this week. We will have more on the next episode. But Jack, man, this has been a blast. Thank you for being my first guest. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
you bet. You'll never have another first guest on this show.
exactly. I'll never have another first guest. This was a lot of fun, and this is just a taste of what's yet to come. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be having a bunch of more different topics with not just baseball people, but also some other friends of mine, some other baseball people, to talk about everything from the movie Moneyball to Alex Rodriguez to drill tweets. Not making this up. We've got a bunch of fun things planned, and I'm really excited for this show. We don't yet have, not yet have, but at the time of this recording, I don't know what the handles and the things will be exactly, but there will be a Twitter account. If they're not available, you can follow me on Twitter at Javipeno. In my opinion, the best handle in the game, JAVIIPENO, and Jack _ McMullen. Is it a
11.
Number? 11. Okay. Jack _ McMullen 11. Go check out Just Baseball, all the podcasts from Who's Better Baseball to the Just Baseball Show to the Call Up to Outside the Box with Jeff Conine. Whatever you guys want to check out, they've got you covered, including my stupid show, Baseball versus the World. It's a show about what, Jack?
Just whatever.
Correct. But I was also hoping you'd say the tagline about how baseball relates to the rest of the world and how the world relates to baseball.
You weren't getting it out of me.
It was fun. I was trying, you know what I mean? I just wanted to see. I would have been impressed, you know, if it was for the reaction, see what would happen. Everybody go check out all those things. We'll see you next week. Every Tuesday is what we are hoping for from this podcast. Hope you had a lot of fun. Subscribe, tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your cousins, you know, tell your Twitter followers, whatever you want. Until next time, it's been mine and Jack's pleasure to serve you.